Before we go deep into my five-step system that really helps people do Section 8 the right way, we have to tackle the myths about Section 8 investing. And I know there's myths out there because I was very much opposed to Section 8 before I had my first tenant. And we have to take advantage of this opportunity because it's a huge one. And to be successful at this, we have to overcome these objections and tackle these myths. So let's talk about it. So the first one, if as you look at this picture in this slide here, is that Section 8 tenants will damage your property. Whew. Now, this is one I hear the most often. Like the moment I say Section 8, I think people have this visual that's on the screen right here that, you know, the property is going to be trash, right? And the reality is that any tenant can damage your property. I know that's not what people want to hear. They want to hear that everybody will treat your property like gold, but the truth of the matter is that any tenant has the capability to damage your property. This is not a Section 8 issue. This is a screening issue for the most part, right? So the three things that help avoid property damage, in my opinion, is location of the property, proper screening, and an adequate security deposit, and then a fourth one, bullet. I know it says three. So the fourth one is timely maintenance. So I'm gonna break that down really quick for you. So where the property is located, meaning if you have a property in a trash neighborhood, you know, you can't expect it to look like gold because you're going to attract tenants that's not going to take care of a property in that manner. Just think about if you lived in a neighborhood that looked like trash, it's a great chance that your inside of your property is not going to look good as well. There's going to be things like infestations that you really can't even control, right? And plus the fact that if you live in a trash neighborhood, the high it's a high probability that you don't want to be there. You know, even if people need to be there temporarily for shelter, they're thinking about how can I get out of here. So I really focus on teaching people how to buy properties in areas that are not trash neighborhoods to begin with. So that's number one. Number two is proper screening. So if you have a Section 8 tenant, you screen them just like you would a cash tenant. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Ensuring that you have a security deposit. Yes, Section 8 properties, Section 8 tenants, excuse me, qualify for a housing voucher, but that doesn't mean you do not accept a security deposit. You have to protect your property from any damage. So you do that by putting a security deposit that can help offset any property damage in the event that things look like this picture. And timely maintenance. This is huge, and this is what will make your tenant fall in love with you, is that when they have an issue, you take care of it right away. It's not "Oh, let me nickel and dime it. Oh, I'll get to it when I feel like it. Oh, they're asking for too many maintenance requests." You have to have timely maintenance. You have to show that you care about your property first, and then they will follow suit. Those things help a lot. Another thing to note here is that Section 8 tenants are motivated to maintain quality housing, contrary to what people may say. A housing voucher, especially in this day and age, is absolutely huge. Look at how expensive it is to rent an apartment. Recipients who have this housing voucher is literally walking around with a golden ticket. They're not going to do anything to damage that or lose that and risk being homeless. Just not going to do it. Also, a thing to note is that any housing authority is going to do annual inspections. So it's only so far how a property can look for you to maintain compliance as a landlord and be able to collect the guaranteed rent. So when they come out, they're going to look for things like, for example, this picture here, right? This would never fly. This would never qualify you to be approved as a landlord. You would immediately be notified that this has to be rectified, and you would have to really make some significant changes. So do not believe the hype that a Section 8 tenant will damage your property. They could, but it would be no different than a cash tenant, not at all. Let's go to the next one. Myth number two, Section 8 paperwork is overwhelming. Okay. Now, the reality is that there will be some paperwork that needs to be completed. You are working with the government, so there's a lot of compliance that you have to cover your bases, right? But the great thing is that I have a system that really helps break this down for you. Only thing you need is to have a packet that's successfully completed, and then you just simply, reuse that template for any new tenant that you have. So I'll definitely break that down for you within my 5-step system. The key to success with rental property investing is systems. Trust me, and I have perfected these systems, so you don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to worry about that. So to sum this up again, yes, there is paperwork. Will it be overwhelming? No, it's not going to be overwhelming. It's simply a necessity to ensure that you get guaranteed, consistent cash flow. So it's just worth it. Myth number three, Section 8 rentals aren't profitable. Now, this is absolutely false. So, and I think that this is where that opportunity comes in because I find them to be incredibly profitable. And and the reason why I shifted to 100% Section 8 because you're actually able to take advantage of market rents, right? So fair market rents is communicated by the housing authority based on zip code and the number of bedrooms. So you're entitled to that, right? So this is not an arbitrary number that Section 8 will be able to provide you. It's a number that's refreshed every year based off of the number of bedrooms and the zip code that your property sits in. This fair market value is, in my experience, higher than what you can get from a cash tenant. I've found consistently in my market that I'm able to get at least $200 more than what I would get if I was renting to a cash tenant. So the fact that I can get more rent and that is guaranteed, to me, it's a win-win. And the third win is that Section 8 tenants typically stay longer. So you have a long-term tenant, guaranteed rent, and a high probability to get more rent than I would have for a cash tenant. I just think that's a win-win-win for sure. I also noted here that the government, it's an incentive for the government to have competitive rent amounts because otherwise, they're going to have a homelessness issue. So these housing vouchers that are granted is to help homeless people maintain housing. So it would not make sense for the government to lowball a landlord when they know they need to place their housing recipients. It just doesn't make sense. Also, in my experience, lack of profit is not a result of Section 8. Possible reasons would be debt service for the property or when the investors fail to increase rents to ensure profitability. What I mean by debt service is just simply this. Um, how did you analyze the property to begin with? Is your mortgage, $2,000, but the most rent you can collect for the property is 2,100. You know, that already you're almost in the hole. So this is what I mean by making sure that the debt service makes sense, for sure. And then what I find a lot is that investors get lazy. They don't want to go through the process every year of increasing rents. So you let that pile up year over year as your taxes go up, your expenses go up, and now a property that was making a little money is not making money because you're not actively maintaining your property for maximum profitability. And I have great systems to ensure that you do that effectively. And I'll be happy to share that later in the presentation. Myth number four, Section 8 only works in high crime areas. So, this, again, just a horrible, horrible, horrible misunderstanding of the process. So, number one, uh, The reality is Section 8 is not a location, you know, and it's simply a voucher that provides quality housing or should provide quality housing for someone that is in need. This is it's a voucher, it's a stipend. Um, and the location of the property can literally be anywhere, unless there is like an HOA or something like that where rentals are prohibited or something like that, right? But where you actually have a property is completely up to you. As long as it passes the inspection and that the tenant is willing to sign a lease, you can actually make that a Section 8 rental. So when people say it only works in high crime areas, that's just simply just not true. That's not how the process works. Uh, for what I noted here is that for maximum return on investment, I teach my students to focus on blue collar, working class neighborhoods, C class neighborhoods, not D and F neighborhoods where it's clearly a lot of abandoned buildings, a lot of drug activity, a lot of just crime, and these are areas that again I wish that we didn't have any of those areas in America, but I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I realize that this is a reality, but when you're trying to invest, especially as a mom and pop investor, which I'm sure most of you guys are, what I still consider myself, right? We're not an institutional investor where we're buying hundreds of properties and we're paying a property manager to manage them, and it's all about the spread. No, this is where we're building a property portfolio where we can build financial freedom, generational wealth. We can't afford to buy properties in bad neighborhoods, because it's not advantageous for us. It just isn't. We need to focus on areas where a Section 8 tenant will be proud to live in. It doesn't need to be A class, B class neighborhoods, because those areas, then you start looking at profitability. It becomes less profitable because your mortgage will be higher. There's a sweet spot that we need to be in, and I find that that's the C class, working class, blue collar areas where people get up every day and care about their neighborhood. Most people work, or most people definitely keep the area clean. You're not worried about rampant crime or vandalism and things like that, and you focus on those neighborhoods. You put a Section 8 tenant in there who will love being in there, and they take care of the property, and you'll be able to enjoy consistent cash flow for many, many years. So this is false, and this is one that kind of touches my heart a little bit, because I don't want people to think that I have to have a property in a bad neighborhood. That is just so false. All of my properties are in neighborhoods that I personally would let anyone that I love and care about live in. And that's my advice, and that's what I would want you to do if you want to take part in this program. Myth number 5: managing Section 8 is a full-time job. And you see my guy here is, got his head in his hands. He's struggling, right? Now, the reality is that managing a property with Section 8 or cash tenants can be a full-time job. It can be, and the key here is without a system, right? But you don't have to worry about that, because my system makes it so easy for you to manage your properties. And I manage my entire portfolio within a few hours a month. I really do. Everything is really on autopilot. I have a recommended software that I use. I break it down completely in my system. And, again, I'm going to talk more about that offer by the end of this presentation, but just let you know, like, you'll be able to save so much money by self-managing your property. So noted here, paying for expensive property management fees, it's just going to eat into your cash flow. I really don't know many people who say they have a great property manager. I just really don't. For the most part, people hire property managers because they want to be completely hands off, right? The problem with that is that when they see how much money that they take out, And when they see that tenants are unhappy and they elect to leave, right? And then you have to worry about paying to get the property refreshed, you know, touch up paint, fixing any repairs. And then the biggest one, this is when I knew, let's say this. If you don't know, if you're an aspiring investor watching this, the biggest crime in this is that a property management company will take your first month's rent as a placement fee. So think about it, right? They could be they could potentially be dragging their feet to place a tenant. It could take a month, 2 months, 3 months, and you finally get a tenant. And you're thinking, whew, man, I've been paying my mortgage, I've been paying these utilities. And then the moment you get a tenant, the first month goes to the property management company. I think that sucks. And I think it sucks. And a lot of people eat this because they just simply don't want to be involved in the operation. But I assure you, you can ditch the property manager and implement some systems, whether you're local or you're remote, like I am. And I promise you, you're going to be saving thousands of dollars a month just on thousands of dollars a year just on ditching your property manager. It's completely worth it. They don't care about your tenants because they have so many tenants to manage. That one-on-one care will be lost. And you might say, well, I don't want to communicate with my tenants. I think you should. I think you should have some type of communication with them because that will ensure that they stay. You see what I'm saying? Having someone having a conversation 2 3 times a year, whether it be phone or through text or email, just to show that you care about the property, makes a lot of sense when you're having a tenant that stays 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 years you know but when you never come across as personable or relatable to the tenant, literally every year they're looking like, oh, I need to get out of here. So I find that if you have some type of relationship with the tenant, not buddy buddy, not regularly, but just some type of touch points throughout the year, I think that helps with the overall relationship. It makes your management a whole lot easier. They become kind of like mayors of your property. And I really enjoy that part of it because it makes it easier for me. Cool, cool. So we've broken down 5 myths, and I think it's pretty clear at this point, those are myths, right? I want to talk a little bit about my system, my 5-step system to consistent cash flow. This system right here is a proven system to help you build a stress free, profitable rental portfolio. This is designed for new and experienced investors. Back up a little bit. Designed for new and experienced investors to maximize cash flow while minimizing effort. The reason why I want to point that out is because obviously, if you're new, you are starting at a position of strength if you would like to join this program. If you are an experienced investor and not taking advantage of Section 8, I promise you, this is going to put you in another category because the stress levels are going to go so down, so much lower, and the cash flow is going to go up. So, being experienced helps you in some ways, but this is an opportunity to step it up. So definitely take advantage. Each step is crafted to ensure guaranteed income, low vacancies, and ease of management. Okay. And by the end of this presentation, I have a special offer to join my program, right? This is a very exclusive program, high touch, personalized program with you and I so that we can make your investment goals a success. So the first step in the process is finding cash flow flowing properties, right? So you might be in a market where cash flow is plentiful, and if so, that's an added plus. Just like the person in the beginning who was watching out of Cleveland, I think Cleveland is an amazing market. I absolutely love it. So the fact that they're there, it's just huge. But if you're not in a cash flow market, that doesn't mean you don't get to participate. This is America, you know, and we also have the internet. So we can invest anywhere, right? So finding cash flowing properties is really cool. But the thing is, the differentiator for me is really how I analyze properties, right? It's really key to make sure that your debt service coverage ratio hits a certain mark. So a debt service ratio of at least 1.25 at a minimum. And what that is if your mortgage is $1,000, that would mean you would want to collect rent of at least $1,250. So that's where the 1.25 comes in. That's a minimum. Me personally, I look for at least 1.5. So in that example, if my mortgage was 1,000, I would want to at least comfortably make $1,500 a month to allow for any potential maintenance issues, anything like that. But currently in my portfolio, because I invest in Cleveland, many of my properties hit the 2.0 mark, where $1,000 mortgage, I'm collecting $2,000 in rent. So really making sure that we find properties that can hit that number as high as possible. The 1.5 and up with 125 at a minimum is so key, right? Um, Another big thing that I learned is that, bedrooms and zip code are really the two magic components of this system. It's a big difference, and I really, when you join the program, I'll break it down for you how important this is because you don't want to just buy any three bedroom. It's a certain style of three bedroom you want. It's a certain makeup bedroom you want. You want to look at zip codes. You want to understand neighborhoods. You want to understand crime data. All those things help you shape how you can actually be successful in this initial step. So then the third part, investing locally or out of state to find the best cash flow opportunities. Again, you do not have to be in your local market. You do not have to be in your local market. Do I need to say it again? You do not have to be in your local market. I have zero properties in my local market. Zero. Do I go to sleep at night worrying about that? No, because I have a system and I make money in my sleep. The right property at the right price means consistent cash flow. Step two, screen and secure quality tenants. So you got this property that's primed to make cash flow. Now we need to find the tenant to make it stick. This is where you look at your tenant as your business partner. This is key. So we're going to find government backed tenants with guaranteed rent. So Section 8, effective screening processes for long term tenants. And this is huge because, again, you do not screen them separately because you say, oh, well, they get guaranteed rent. So, lay the red carpet out. That's not how it works. Just because someone has a Section 8 voucher, there is still some standards that you would want for sure. I still have a minimum credit score requirement. Does it have to be a 700? No, no. But I do want them to have at least fair credit. I'm looking for at least 600, preferably 620 or higher. They need to have no evictions, which is key. And they also need to have a clean criminal history, completely clean. Like I don't want anything on it. Completely clean, right? The only exception would be like traffic violations. I think I think that can happen to anybody. So I'm okay with traffic violations, but outside of that, criminal, anything criminal at all, I don't want in my property proactively. I'm not doing that. And then the last component is the security deposit. So if everything is checks clean, everything looks good, I would then require at least 1 month. If there's any room for pause, if there's, and really the pause would come in when you're looking at the credit, because you don't want to waiver on evictions and you don't want to waiver on background check. So if their credit is challenged, I would then ask for at least maybe one and a quarter of the rent for a security deposit, one and a half. I think anything over one and a half, you're probably asking too much. I think that would be too aggressive for someone who's considered low income. In my experience, a lot of times the housing authority will give them the security deposit, or there might be some, charitable organization that helps with placement. So a lot of times it's not coming directly from the tenant. And that's the reason why I think that anything over one and a half will be kind of hard, because I don't think the government or a charitable company, excuse me, would pay more than that. So if you feel like you need more than one and a half, I think you should just probably pass on that person and go to the next applicant. A quality long-term tenant is a recipe for consistent cash flow, right? So you got this property that doesn't move, right? It's not going anywhere. And then you got this tenant that is perfect for this property for the long term. So you marry those two, and that's consistent cash flow all day, right? So let's go to the next step. So once you have that tenant, you have identified that tenant. Um, they're ready to move in. They're excited. You're excited to have them. There is going to be a process to get them approved, right? And the approval really falls on you, to be honest, because they're already approved. They have the voucher. They're going to have a housing packet. It might look like an intimidating set of documents, but realistically, it's only a handful of those that needs to be addressed and signed. And my system identifies that for you. It helps you understand that process. But that's the responsibility of the landlord to provide all the necessary paperwork to ensure that you're the rightful owner of the property, that there's no back taxes that's owed, no liens or anything like that within the property. There's some disclosures you have to sign, and there's some information on, essentially what the type of property it is, whether it's gas, electric, what utilities you're going to pay. All of those type of things will be within this packet. And again, my system breaks it down for you. And once you have an approved packet, you'll be able to say, oh, okay, this is all you needed. Great. And you just mirror that for any additional tenants that you have in the future. It's really not that difficult. Um, as far as inspections, there will be an initial inspection that you have to pass. Most of the time, it goes through without a hitch. But if there's something that needs to be addressed, they'll give you a certain time frame to get it done. We talk about that process extensively in my program, how to really identify qualified help, especially if you're not a handy person. I have some tips and tricks for that. So you have the initial inspection, you have the annual inspection as well. Some other, Section 8 compliance and documentation is rent increases. I talked about that a little bit earlier in the presentation, how I feel many investors sit on their hands, but every year I raise my rent, every year, right? But you have to understand the process, right? You have to understand the certain markers that you have to make to ensure that you get it in a timely manner. And I break that down extensively in my program. So you'll be perfectly fine. I want to note here that efficient processes to reduce stress and maximize rent collection. This is so important. I'm really about maintaining a stress free rental property portfolio. This should not be stressful. So, this is really key for me, and I focus on that a lot in my program. And the last thing here, ensuring compliance while enjoying consistent cash flow. Got a little spelling error there. Sorry about that. Compliance. Step 4, manage your rentals with confidence, right? So I have tools and strategies that really ensures that I can manage my entire portfolio in less than a few hours a month. I really do. So when it comes to any maintenance requests, when it comes to Section 8 documentation. It's so simple to do once you have these systems in place. And I want to tell you that when I first started, it wasn't simple. I had to really refine my processes over time, and now I have a system that really works in my sleep. And this is the reason why I can be so confident and really talk to you guys about this, is because I don't want you to have to really start from scratch like I did. I really have a passion for teaching and helping people move forward, and I know you can benefit from this program. So, tools and strategies to manage your properties in a few hours a month. No need for an expensive property manager, because essentially what they have is systems, right? But the difference in their systems is that their systems need to cascade across hundreds or even thousands of properties, right? So it's only so many hands that can give you the type of service that you want. So their systems allow them to just, keep your head above water. All right, I'm gonna collect the rent, I'm gonna do this or whatever. That's it. But what you want is the ability to have maximum cash flow, take care of your tenants, take care of your property, and do it in a more personable, manageable, stress-free way. Don't just parse off, hundreds of dollars a month, thousands of dollars a year to a property manager who doesn't care about your property. You care about your property. So let's just make sure we bring that money in house, implement a system that can help you save, and make it sustainable for years to come. So you can handle your maintenance requests, like I noted, tenant communications, rent collection, all using my proven system. I have a great software that I use that really kind of coordinates all this stuff for me. And I've been using it for years, and it works like clockwork. Last thing to note, just to reemphasize, manage using systems to maintain your consistent cash flow, right? So these steps, we're about to go into the last step. These steps is all to ensure that you get consistent cash flow and you never have to worry. All right. So step 5, maximize rental income yearly, right? So s- uh, I'll help you with strategies to help set strategic rents out the gate, right? Because the last thing you want to do is, lowball yourself on rent and dread every month until you can put a rent increase in. Let's go ahead and do the proper research up front and charge what we need to charge. And then as we get closer, probably around the 8-month mark into the lease, I'm looking at, comps in the area. I'm looking at to see if the housing authority has updated their rent, fair market rents. I'm already game planning what the new rent will be. I'm looking at utility costs. I'm looking at if you have, if you're paying for landscaping. I'm looking at all the different things that kind of makes up all of my operating expenses and saying, I'm probably about $50 short. Oh, I'm probably about $100 short. And you're preparing for that rent increase. And it's to ensure that it happens at a timely basis. There are certain checkpoints that you have to do before you put your application in to get the rent increase. I have mastered this process. You do not need to figure this out. Like, don't even try to. Go ahead and just be a part of a program where I'm personally here to help you. My course will break it down extensively. You do not need to do this yourself. I assure you, right? So, staying competitive in the market to keep your units consistently occupied, minimize tenant turnover, and maintain stable income growth. And lastly, this maximizes your returns year after year with consistent cash flow. See what I'm saying? So maximize your money and also make it consistent. The actual offer will be populated for you. You should have seen it already. So you can click on that and take your next steps. This program transforms rental investing. You'll be able to earn consistent cash flow, manage your property stress free, confidently scale with the right system. You'll have more time to focus on what matters, like family, vacations, your faith, or other investment opportunities. And I want you to look at this again as an investment in yourself. And this will allow you to fast track your success with rentals. So I just really, really, really appreciate you. And I want to say thank you for taking the time out to watch my webinar. And now that it's really in your hands. So I really appreciate you for everything. I look forward to working with you. I really do. And if you have any questions that I haven't answered, you can email me at info@mosesthementor.com. That is info, at mosesthementor.com. But if you're ready to take action right now, jump in immediately. I look forward to working with you. Let's go.